Good morning and welcome to the dignified Sunday Blether. It is the Boise bus and we are back for some dignified blethering. And of course, we can't do that without our Sunday Blether team. And as you can see, as always, I am with, he's unblocked me now, so it's good, it's fine. Everything's hunky-dory in the old Boise bus. We've got Regan Stevenson, the real face that runs the place here.
Well, David,
Regan, how you doing?
I've decided to do a CN, no show my face this morning because, after last week's performance, I thought it was a bit disrespectful for yourself. I thought you lowered the phone. Dignified. This is not dignified, David. It's a Sunday morning, mate. Come on, you need to do better than this.
Oh, Regan, we're not even a minute and 29 seconds in and you've went for the jugular already.
That's your job. That's your job.
It's your job, David. It's your job. And of course, we've got Mr. Friday Night, Phil McGinley. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fine, mate. Looking forward to more Sunday blethering about the old Celtic because, there's just lots and lots going on at the moment. We're expecting a nice quiet summer break, but no, Celtic just don't do that at all. And looking forward to getting into it again today.
And of course, Mark, it's not the Sunday blether when you and Regan are in town. It's the Sunday scrap, mate. How you doing? You doing good?
I'm doing very well, mate. I'm backing Regan on this one. You can't go for Regan and not take the consequences, mate. So
that's it.
Any more of that today, it'll be the Sunday bloodbath, I think. Bloody Sunday it'll be.
I just hope we look at the sharks in place at Boise Bus HQ. You know what I mean? I don't want to let Celtic put me on the barriers in place and all that. Throw the barriers about. You know what I mean? I just want it to be civilised, as David says.
That's it. Okay, well, let's get all the good stuff out of the way before we get into our civilised, dignified, whatever you want to call it, Sunday blethering. So remember, guys, for all that good stuff, hit and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Okay, give us a like and a share. Slag our hair, as Boise likes to say, and hit that wee bell. You get the wee notifications of any time the bus is on its way. You can become a Boise Bus member for a small cost of $1.99. All our content is free, by the way. There is no extra with that $1.99. It's just a way that you can help support the bus. Get it in for a service, get the oil changed, get the wheels turning. And remember, the season might be over, guys, but that doesn't mean the pies have to stop. So go to piesports.com, put 12.5% off of get 12.5% off your order when you go to the checkout. When you use the code BUS1888, 12.5% off your tasty pasty treats. Okay, and guys, remember, if Brendan Rodgers coming back and promising he's going to be here for 3 years, the 3 years of his contract, and that's not getting you a hard on, well, that's fine, because ED Pharmacy, they'll get you a hard on. They will get you a hard on. So if you're around central Scotland, they offer a free same-day delivery service 7 days a week. And for the rest of the UK, they aim for the next day delivery, and the order cut-off is 6 p.m. There's no hidden fees. The prices that you see are the prices that you pay, unless you're a Boise Bus member and you use the code BUS10 at the checkout for 10% off. And they'll keep you going all night long. Now,
yes, indeed.
I'm sure that's all the housekeeping out of the way. So let's get the show on the road, guys. There's plenty to talk about. There's lots of transfer rumours. It's that time of the year again where we're linked with everybody and their dog. We've already got one guy in the door already, and there's plenty more on the way. I thought we'll start off with just a quick one that took me a little bit by surprise when I read this last night. But apparently, according to Olt Sports or OLT Sports, that Rob Holding is close to an Arsenal exit and will be available for a fee of a region of £8 million. And apparently Brentford and Celtic and one unnamed club are discussing with the players' representatives. Now, Rob Holding is a centre-half whose hair has had a better comeback than Brendan Rodgers to Celtic. And check it out, by the way, unbelievable hairline now. He is available. Now, is he a player at all? Regan, I'll start with you. Having your Spurs affiliation, I'm sure you've kept an eye on Rob Holding when it's been the North London derby. Horrendous accent again, sorry about that. Rob Holding, what's your thoughts on him? Is he the kind of player that you think would slot in there perfectly alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers?
I think Rob Holding is a player that has played very well in the Arsenal team, but I think you look at the big matches he's played this season, he kind of bottled it a little bit. So I think that's a bit of a concern in terms of Celtic, but then you would say, well, the standard's not as good as England as well. So I think, do you know what age Rob Holding is, David?
Not off the top of my head, but I think he's around the 28, 29 mark. But I might be well off that. I'll double check that while you're discussing your thoughts on it.
Because I think for me, it depends on his age. If he's like 25, 26, I would say yes. But if he's edging towards 30, I would say no. Because I think we need young players, progressive players that are fit into the moment better than Rodgers. And I think Rob Holding would be good, but I think it depends on the age for me.
He's 27, Regan. He's 27.
I would take a chance on him, one thing I just want to say, Rob Holding's hair. I mean, my God, if you could send me the details of that guy that did his hair, then it would be great for me because I'm a bit bald around the edges. So if you could send me that hair for one guy, then that would be great for me.
Yeah, Phil, you'll have a fair bit of knowledge on Rob Holding. I always kind of seen him as a bit of it. He was a bit in and out of the Arsenal side. He wasn't really seen as a main guy in that team. Then again, if he was, we probably wouldn't be being linked with him. I think I seen somebody who was it 8 million for a bomb scare. I think it might have been Patrick McLaughlin. I'm not sure who said it, but if it was you, Patrick, I have to agree. He has a little bit of a bomb scare. He certainly wasn't fancied as a main guy down there. Did they get him? Where did they get him from again? Was it Charlton or something like that?
It was some like Bolton or something like that. He was playing in one of the lower league teams. As a youngster, he was snapped up. He's been at Arsenal for quite a while and been in and out the team, loaned out and whatnot. And it's no coincidence that last year, when Arsenal were flying high, I believe Saliba, who was a key player for them, got an injury, and then Rob Holding had to come in, and they were leaking goals left, right, and centre. That wee run that they had, where they had some shocking results. Rob Holding was in the defence there, so I've got a few mates still that are Arsenal fans, and they were pinpointing him as one of the problems. But then again, you got to remember that's Premier League level you're playing. Coming up here, playing in this league, he'd probably be okay, I suppose. Is he better than Starfelt and Carter-Vickers? Is he better than Kobayashi? Possibly, yeah, because Kobayashi hasn't exactly filled us with a lot of confidence from what we've seen and what the future holds for him. Who knows? But again, these are the type of names that are going to come up. One of these players that's a big team in England, but kind of on the outskirts. These are the type of players that we're probably going to get linked with now, with Brendan being in the door. We'll just wait and see if it was to come to fruition and he was to join, then we'll see. But I don't think he's better than Carter-Vickers, put it that way. Very few are. And Starfelt, well, I'll say Carter-Vickers and Starfelt are a good partnership, but better than Kobayashi, possibly. Could be a good third option, a good solid hand to come in when needed. But yeah, Arsenal last season he was at the root. He's not the whole reason that Arsenal fell apart last season, but it is a bit of a remarkable coincidence that after Saliba suffered an injury and Gabriel, the Brazilian defender, I think he got a knock as well, and Rob Holding came in and just wasn't that level at all.
I remember watching the Arsenal's All or Nothing documentary, Mark, and I do remember that Rob Holding seemed to be that kind of guy that's just kind of he was just there. He was just kind of he was like the Scott Bain almost. I didn't really know. I actually kind of forgot he was a part of the team until I seen the documentary. And then, like you said, like Phil said, there was that injury to, I think it was Saliba at Arsenal, and then obviously Rob Holding came in for the remainder of the season, and when we saw what happened to Arsenal's title hopes once that happened. I'm not going to put it down to Rob Holding, by the way, but I think one of the key factors that a lot of the pundits were saying was the defence had become very, very shaky with Saliba being out of the team, or Gabriel, one of the two had to come out of the team, and it just didn't look the same. I just don't. I'm quite happy to hear that we're going to try and spend that kind of money. I just don't know, Mark, if Rob Holding's the guy that I'm willing to spend 8 million on. I just don't think he really does. He make us a better defensive unit for Champions League football or European football? I'm not fully convinced. I mean, he'd be fine in the SPFL. Let's face it, he'll do fine there. I'd just be a bit. He's also quite. I think he's got a fair. He's a bit injury prone as well, Mark. So 8 million on a guy that's one, perhaps seen as a bomb scare. Two, he has a bit of an injury problem himself, and three, does it really improve us that much in Europe?
Well, I think you three have said more than I know about the guy, so kind of like I'll pass on this. To be honest with you, I don't really know much about him, but
no worries, mate. That's fine.
His price tag £8 million. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I think we could afford to spend that kind of money, and I don't think it'd be hard, Phil, to replace Kobayashi. I think he's probably the worst football player I've ever seen in a Celtic shirt, and I watched Diego like start for 10 months.
I don't know about that, Mark.
Well, I think he's one of the worst defenders I've ever signed. You asked Raphael Shite, and you asked, do we, how they're remembered in Celtic jerseys, and they didn't put any performances that guy did. So I'll pass on that one, David Boy.
Not a problem. Let's move on to one of our own, and that is Kyogo. Now, there's seen a lot of tweets going about, all our big names are being linked with everyone, but that's what's going to happen. We've got all the ITK guys saying that Jota's going this way and he's going that way. Well, Kyogo is apparently being linked with a move to Burnley. Burnley. Now, this isn't the Burnley that Sean Dyche. We're not talking about Sean Dyche's Burnley from a couple of seasons ago. We're talking about Vincent Kompany's Burnley, who are a much more attacking style of football now, who romped the Championship last year. They won it at a canter, and Kompany's been seen as the next big thing in management due to that. Take that from what you want, but Kyogo's been linked with Burnley, and the first attempt last month was my mistake. I'm reading the wrong article here. As you can see, I can't see very well today. I'm like Mark. I can't see great due to the old
hay fever's got you.
The air. We're allergic to air in the summer. What a thing. Anyway, so there's talk that Vincent Kompany was trying to get Nathan Tella back from his loan deal. He was a top goal scorer last year, and he pretty much spearheaded them to the Premier League. He's a player from Southampton, who you can't believe that Southampton didn't recall him due to the form that he's on. Well, Southampton want £18 million for that striker that Burnley say that they're not willing to pay. They're not willing to pay £18 million for the guy that got them, I think it was like 20 odd goals last season to get him to the Premier League. So they've turned their attention to Kyogo. Now, here's my question to you, Regan. If Burnley aren't willing to pay £18 million for a player that they've already seen as a proven goal scorer for them, knows the team well, what are they going to be willing to pay for our guy?
David, you're spot on there. And I think Kyogo is a better player than playing for Burnley. As much as one wee caveat we need to caveat with this is Vincent Kompany is part of the City group. He's part of the City group of managers, so maybe that's one the City group's mentioned to him. But I don't know, but yeah, I think Kyogo would be worth more than £20 million in this market because he's scored a lot of goals. He scored in his recent couple of games for Japan as well, and he says that the manager liked what he's seen. He's hoping to get back in the squad pretty quickly. So yeah, I think you're looking for upwards of £20 million for Kyogo. David, did I just see a comment there saying Kyogo's away there?
Just Alan Woods predicting that Kyogo will be away. Says Brendan will want a Dembele type up front.
I don't know, because if you look at it, I think Brendan will quite enjoy what Kyogo has to offer. I think people need to remember that Brendan was at the semi-final against Rangers. He was at the final against Inverness, and he was at the final against Rangers. So Brendan's been in 3 matches, and Kyogo's been the match winner in the majority of those games. So he knows what Kyogo's all about. And I doubt because of Dembele's time at Celtic, he's one of the Dembele type striker. I think he's probably seen Kyogo and went, I can make this guy so much better. And I think if to go back on the point, David, I think Burnley are losing hope, because if they're not willing to pay for a guy like you said that scored 20 to 25 goals, then what has Celtic won? What has Celtic won for Kyogo? But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised because the Vincent Company is part of the City group of managers, and he was part of Anderlecht. I know he's got a good relationship with Ange Postecoglou because he tried to get Ange Postecoglou a management job to be on his backroom team. When he was manager over in Belgium, which Ange Postecoglou rejected. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think Burnley's the destination.
Just reeks of going for, let's go to Scotland and get them on a cheap for me, Phil. You know, it's £18 million. You know, Burnley, they've just got the riches of the Premier League. They're a well-run club, and they're not willing to spend £18 million on a player that they got them into the Premier League. So they'll just look for a cheaper option. Celtic, they'll give us Kyogo for £10 million, and we're getting a 25 goal a season striker. From there, I just it's going back. It's a bit insulting. I think they're going to be a bit daft if you think, you know, well, if you're not willing to pay that for Nathan Taylor, then you're going to have to pay a lot more for Kyogo. His future is in doubt slightly because of some comments he's been making. Again, this is being translated from him speaking while over in Japan, so you can take it with a pinch of salt. And you know, these things can get lost in translation, Phil. But he's saying. My ambition this season was to win all 3 trophies and win the Player of the Year, and I have managed that. I was able to do that because I had a lot of support from my teammates. But right now, I want to have a long rest and think about things after that. I am delighted I was able to end a great season for me on a high. And there was a few more other comments he said a few days later. They all seem a bit non-committal. I think it's a case Celtic need to get him round the table, find out what he has planned or where he sees himself going, because we've discussed this off camera, Phil. You know, Kyogo's got probably one big move left in him. Really, if it is going to be the Premier League, is it going to be a team like Burnley, or is he going to try and aim a bit higher? And if it is only going to be a Burnley, is it better for him just to stay at Celtic and, you know, continue to be on his way to become a Celtic? Well, I'm not saying legend yet, but you know, be a Celtic, known as a Celtic great, we'll say.
I would like to think that he will be sticking around. I'd be quite gutted if he goes now, and especially to Burnley. And you are right in what you say. It's not Brexit ball, Sean Dyche Burnley anymore. You know, like we saw a few years back. Obviously, Vincent Kompany's got them playing a very different brand, and by all accounts, seems to be a very highly sought after manager with his style. But I do see a comment here from Kenny coming in saying that Kyogo was just on a video on Celtic's YouTube saying he's looking forward to playing the Champions League next season. I mean, the boy must have some unfinished business looking at his performance last season in the Champions League, the amount of chances that he missed. You know, he needs to make amends for that, I think. So hopefully, you know, what if he has appeared on a Celtic YouTube video and the club's put out and said that, hopefully he sees that through. Because, yeah, I think he himself would like to, you know, make a mark in the Champions League, because some of the clangers that he missed last season were... Because he didn't score, did he? Giakoumakis scored and Jota scored other goals, didn't he, in the Champions League? And there was an own goal against Shakhtar. So, yeah, hopefully he sticks around to, you know, play against in the Champions League. But if he is going to go to the Premier League, he's not going to get a club that's in the Champions League, or maybe even, you know, might be a Europa League team, maybe. But Burnley does seem a bit of a surprise to me, despite the fact that they're obviously a long way away from the Sean Dyche era, but I still couldn't see him at that level. I still think there's a better team in England he could probably get, but he'd have to stick around with us for another year and maybe make a mark in Europe, and that would probably help his case.
David, the only caveat I would say would be something like Brighton, because Brighton play a great brand of football. They've got European football, and they've got a track record. They're coming to get players in Scotland. So Brighton would be one that I would possibly watch. The one thing on Kyogo as well is, don't forget that he did say don't get too attached to people at Celtic Park. So we're probably going to get used to it. But I hope Celtic can keep a hold of Kyogo for one more season, like Phil was saying there.
Mark, I suppose we could look at it this way. There's a great comment that came up here. It was of Stephen Ray. It makes a good point. Kyogo will be 29 in January and has 2 years left. We're in that sell or extend territory with him now. I suppose it's weighing up. Is it worth more to Celtic, even money wise? We sell him for, say, 15 million if Burnley are willing to pay, only wanting to pay a region of that, say, and we take it, or even 20 million. We get what we kind of would like to if we were going to sell. Or is he worth more to Celtic by firing us goals in the in Europe and and next season to get us winning more trophies? What is it? What is more valuable when it comes to Kyogo? His goals, possibly in Europe if it works this time around, or selling him to a Burnley.
I agree with Stephen. I think the club will look at it fiscally. They always do. I don't think that the money doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. I don't think. I said a million times. It doesn't matter how much money Celtic get them. Doesn't mean they're going to spend it. So the goals on the park means more to me than. There seems to be some sort of morbid excitement among Celtic fans when we get a player to instantly put a price tag on them and almost wish them away. I don't understand it, quite honestly. It is what it is on Kyogo. I've no touch any more on it. Phil and Regan summed up pretty well. I think if Burnley's the level that guy's at, then I'd be surprised. But Burnley can offer him. He's a Japanese player. His ambition will to go at the highest level and try and be a wee bit of a maverick for Japanese players. And he'll go for maybe 15, 16, 20 grand a week maximum at Celtic to maybe 40 grand, 45 grand a week at Burnley. And it's hard to turn that money down. I don't think that Celtic will think the way me and you do. I think Celtic don't think about the fans' enjoyment. They would happily see a Craig Beattie back at the club if he was scoring goals every now and again and everybody else was chipping in rather than us having a superstar in the team. They don't really care about things like that unless it sells t-shirts. But no, I think the Champions League is Brendan Rodgers' ambitions, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I think we need to upgrade on Kyogo. I think he's a brilliant football player. He's been really exciting last season and he does the job in Scotland, but we need somebody with a bit more quality. And I think if we're going to keep this manager happy, we're going to have to maybe perhaps sell a few players on. I think Hakati's away. I actually think I'll be surprised if the three main Japanese players are at Celtic next season. Not because Ange Postecoglou goes away, because any idea that they've got some loyalty to Ange. I mean, not many of them's actually played under Ange before. They just can't to play in the same league as him, and he brought them over. There's no loyalty to the guy because he fucked off the first chance he got on all. So I don't think they care that he's away. But I just think there's a natural cycle of football players. I think Hakati's got probably his maximum value at Celtic as this window. I think Kyogo's maximum value for Celtic as this window. And I really don't think Dyson Maeda fits into Ange Postecoglou into a Brendan Rodgers team. In fact, he said it himself last week. He says, I'll be interested to see where I fit in. He's obviously heard and watched some Celtic stuff under Brendan Rodgers, and we've no got room for guys like that in a team like him. Guys like that in his team, we really don't. We need players that are very capable of doing a certain type of job, and I don't think this. I think they call it the special team in the NFL, where they just kick the ball and then the special team run towards the opposition and try and gain yards. That's the type of player he is, and I'm not entirely sure that he's the ball carrier that Celtic are going to be having to bring in. And you get Jota on the left, and I think his position next season will be on the left. I know we're talking this guy coming for Australia.
Well, we're going to move on to him just now because it was a great transition there, Mark, because he is a bit of a ball carrier. I've got a wee bit of a deep dive in here on, how do you pronounce this guy's name? Is it Tilio?
Tilio.
Marco Tilio. So, Celtic have reportedly agreed a fee with Melbourne City, who is part of the City group, am I right?
Yes.
Yes, they are indeed. Even got a Sky Blue shot with Etihad as a sponsor.
Yeah, okay. So Melbourne City for attacker Marco Tilio, as Brendan Rodgers closes in on the second signing of his return to Celtic. Tilio has made 82 appearances in all competitions for City since signing in the 2020-21 season, earning plaudits and catching the eye as one of the nation's most biggest exports. He's already earned 7 caps with the national team too. In his most recent season, he netted 10 goals and assisted 6 more in 29 league appearances. Regan Tilio is a versatile attacker who has played in a variety of positions for Melbourne City. And he's played on either wing, and he's also played as a second striker and as a number 10, and even as a number 8. He has most commonly played on the left side, though. So, but he's arguably been most effective as a number 10 or a second striker. Now, if he plays predominantly more on the left, it's more of a ball carrier. That maybe does spell the end for the likes of maybe Dyson Maeda playing out on that side. Would you agree?
Yeah, David, I do agree. And I've watched a lot of YouTube with this guy. I watched some of the Australian journalists talking about him. He sort of reminds me of Paddy Roberts.
Yeah, I could agree with you there.
And I think that's the kind of players that Brendan's looking for. He's looking for somebody with a quick burst of pace that can get Celtic on the attack pretty quickly. And I think he's one that actually does suit Brendan's system. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does happen. And he does look a pretty good player. Looks pretty good technically, and as if he can go past a player pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And what age is he, David? What age is he?
I think he's fairly young. Is he quite 23, 24, is he?
I think he might go by then, because to be honest, he's still got a lot of development, and from what I'm hearing, he seems to be pretty good. And also, like you said there, David, he's played for the Australian national team quite a few times now. So
yeah, he was at the World Cup.
I think he's obviously a big hope for them as well. And I think he's probably said to himself, well, look at all the Australians that have been to Scotland and done pretty well. Look at you've got loads of them. You've got Martin Boyle, Cammy Devlin, Tommy Rogic. You've got loads of them. So he probably goes to himself, I'm sure I can go over there and do very well. And I'm sure he spoke to them and said, what is the standard like and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's probably a very good transfer business from Celtic.
Yeah, well, not to mention you've got Harry Kewell. You know, if you're a winger in Australia, he's probably been on your wall at some point as a youngster in Australia. I think even just getting the chance to work with him, and I mean, we've not seen too much coming out of what Harry Kewell really does for Celtic, but like I think Dyson has come out and said a fair few times now, like he feels that he's really enjoyed working under Harry Kewell since he arrived. So I think the prospect, Phil, of Tilio getting to come to Celtic and work under Harry Kewell would be pretty appetising for him. It says here that Tilio's strength is undoubtedly his technique. He's probably Australia's best tight space dribbler. He excels in tight spaces under pressure and loves to take defenders on 1v1s and even 1v2s. He has a proactive first touch and doesn't require space to dribble. So I think he's exactly the kind of player that we like to see at Celtic. The fact that he's managed to break into the Australian national team fairly well, get taken to the World Cup, and seems to be excelling there. It does seem to be an exciting player to be bringing. You're looking forward to seeing him signing for Celtic, Phil, from what you've heard so far and probably read on him?
Well, I've watched obviously the YouTube videos like most of us would normally do in this, and yeah, by all accounts, you know, again, he looks good, but most people in their YouTube videos always do look good. So I always do approach a wee bit in trepidation. The reason why I said earlier on as well, I thought he was 24, is because when Tilio's name had came up, the first name that came to my mind was Daniel Arzani. We've been down this road before, so I looked up, what's Daniel Arzani up to nowadays? He's 24 now. But yeah, he after his initial loan spell with us, he played 20 minutes. He went on loan to another 3 or 4 clubs, playing the most he played was 13 games somewhere for one of them, and now he's back playing in Australia for an A-League team. And I was like, this is the thing, we got really excited at that one. A boy who just broke into the Australian national team, played the 2018 World Cup, was seen as the next big thing in Australia. Lots of people from down under really pushing the name. Arzani's going to be the next big thing. Then he came to, well, he signed for, obviously, moved to Man City from Melbourne City as well. There was that link there. And got loaned to us and never amounted to anything. So I just hope it's not another one of those scenarios where he looks like he's going to be the next big thing. Because as we found out when Ange Postecoglou first joined Celtic, everyone in Australia was saying how nobody was ever going to say anything bad about him. Was going to push his name as how great he is. I've noticed a lot of tweets from Australian football fans saying how great Tilio is and so on. And it's like, well, they're not going to come out, and trash him if he's going to get a move abroad. So I hope it's not another Azani scenario, and I hope if he does come, he does fit in really well and gels with the team. Because again, going by what we've seen in the YouTube highlights, again, he does look an exciting player. But yeah, just a wee bit of caution around it because we have been down this road before. That would be my advice right now.
Mark, Connor had put into the group chat when we first when the reports were coming out about Tilio. Of course, it screams a sort of Ange Postecoglou sort of sign in, and his concern was: what's happening here? Is this a Rodgers production, or is this a board production? What's happening? This is another player that we've clearly been linked with in the past now, and he's coming in. What's happening to Rodgers? Is he getting his own players in now? I can understand his. Well, I'm not saying he was the one concerned. He was probably just asking the question in the group chat. I think we can't have our cake and eat it. We want this contingency plan in place if a manager leaves that we're looking. We've got a good structure, a good scouting structure in place for when we transition between managers, and we have a certain type of player that we like that the next manager coming in can take a look at and have the final say on. But then we don't want it. But then you've got the other side of the coin as well, is the manager not getting to look at his own players first. You can't have your cake and eat it. I think it's a good thing that we've obviously continued to look at having this in place, with Matt Lowe coming in and using his scouting knowledge, probably coming from the City group. Are you quite happy with the fact that the way this has kind of gone about, that even with Ange, who probably identified him first and probably gave it the green light to look at, has moved on, but the club have felt that, no, we're going to continue to go down this road with this player, most likely showing Rodgers him, and then Rodgers is also given the green light. Are you quite happy with the way that's operating?
Well, I don't like Mark Lawwell at the club at all, to be quite honest with you. That's just my opinion, and I think I say this before on the pod. You've got Angie's style of play is very unique. I think it is different to Rodgers. I know Rodgers says that it's not that different, but I think it's very different in terms of how we set up. You know what I mean? So they're going to be players that have to fit into that system. So if there's players that are kind of identical to Angie's philosophy, I don't think they always fit into the puzzle with a new manager. And I get Connor's point. When I seen that boy Home coming in and he'd mentioned that he's basically an Ange signing, I just thought, right, okay, as long as he's maybe going to be in a squad player. Then
is he an Ange signing though? Are we getting ourselves into this bracket where
we tried to sign him in January? It's an Ange signing.
But what I'm saying is we've got this now contingency, this scouting contingency that Brendan's even applauded when he came in. Now I know he's not going to come and say that, but this was terrible. No. This is terrible. But he's not going to come back. He's not going to come back. No, but he's not going to come back either if it was piss poor either, is he? He left because it was piss poor. He's not going to come back if it's still piss poor.
No, I don't
want to bracket these players as seen as just solely Ange signings now. This is now.
No, but you asked the question, David, based on Connor's comments, so I'm answering the question.
No, I get it. So, but what? No, I don't understand. I know what I asked, but what I'm asking you, I'm not trying to bracket them into just purely Ange signing. That's why I've asked the question. They're not just seen as just Ange and Brendan signings. They're seen as the Celtics now scouting contingency signings that the managers are happy to tick off. I wouldn't bracket them as just a pure Ange signing now and a pure Brendan signing now. That's
no, but the point is,
on you go, mate.
No, but the point is, I think the players that were brought in January or identified in January were guys that were to play Angie's system. So I think if Neil Lennon comes in tomorrow, it would be, and you're signing guys for somebody else's system, then they wouldn't entirely fit into Neil Lennon's team. I don't think Brendan Rodgers' team players fit into. I think every manager's got a very unique, even though it's the same kind of setup on paper, they play different. And I think Home, there's no way that guy's going to come in and play 30 games for Celtic next season. I just can't see that. And this other boy, I don't think he's going to come in for the G League or whatever it is and play 30 games for Celtic. I just can't see it. So luckily, I think there'll be squad players, to be honest. But I think if the big main signings will be Rodgers players, and there's no way he's come in and he's not got a notepad and he's not saying to Celtic, that's 3 players that I want, or that's 2 players that I want to sign, and they've said no. Mark's got a system in place, and we're going to set up the club to sign A, B, and T type, A, B, and C, and then you work on the players. I think he would definitely have an actual named player who he wants to sign, and then the club will work on it for him. But the contingency plan, I think, is more than just signing players that Mark Lawwell likes or that Celtic way style of football. That's not how it works, mate. You go to that if you got a director of football.
Exactly. But Brendan will have to. But they'll be showing Brendan these players and say, look, these guys were identified in January by Ange. We like them. We think it works. What's your thoughts? Now, if Brendan said no, I think Brendan would probably get his way. You know. Now, you not think that would be more the case of Brendan would go, no. That's he's
I don't think I suggested that, and I actually said in the pod last week that Ange would. He keeps saying that fucking fat bastard's name. I don't think it's with Rodgers. I said last week I don't think Rodgers will do that. I think Rodgers will absolutely look at every player. I mean, he said himself, look, I spoke to home. I spent some and make sure he fitted into my vision and how a Celtic player should be. And I like that. I like how he's actually put a stamp on it, and he's telling the fans he's put a stamp on it. And I don't think Connor meant that either. And neither do I. I think Celtic. It just looks bad when you look and you go, the first 2 players, I think definitely have been players that Ange will have been in discussions with Mark Lawwell about types of players he wants. Rodgers will be in discussions about types of players he wants, and it'll be Mark Lawwell's job to go out and find these types of players. I don't think Mark Lawwell tells the Celtic manager how to play football, what players he should like, what players he shouldn't play, what system he shouldn't play. The Celtic manager, and this, I don't know, he's just I don't know what his actual title is, but he'll be the one who will be recruiting the players that the manager wants. We've not got a future, we've not got a structure, we've not got a director of football, we've not got a director of football and a manager and a coach. We've got a manager in, and he will oversee the players he wants. I don't think these players that's coming in, I think Rodgers will probably say, I can do a job with them, but it will not be a Marian Shved, you know what I mean, situation where this guy's getting signed behind his back, because that's how we lost this guy the last time. And I don't think for a minute that this guy's Brendan Rodgers is going to come in with any illusions about who's in charge. He's a man, and your title matters. He's not a head coach; he's a manager, David. You know what I mean? And he won't be told by Mark Lawwell the types of players that he's to sign, or the types of vision that Celtic have got. He will absolutely have a formation, a style of play, and identical players to fit that. And we'd be quite naive here to think that Celtic could convince a guy his standard to come to the club by saying, look, Mark Lawwell will tell you the type of players that you want, and then you can just say aye and no. He will say, I want a left back who can overlap. I want a left back who's taller than Greg Taylor. He's too small, for talking's sake. Go and find me somebody with the attributes, and then show me the videos, show me the reports, show me all the information, and then I'll make a decision. Weigh yourselves, and we'll see if we can afford them. I don't think it's a lot about. I really don't.
David, that's the next question I was going to ask. Do you think that Brendan will be sitting going, there's a few players I can upgrade the squad on? Because for me, it's going to be Greg Taylor. It's going to be Kyogo as well. Because, like I always said, right, Kyogo was good up to a point where he was scoring, but everyone else said the Scottish football, the standard wasn't good last year. And every time that Big O was on the park, Big O was I think he's a good player, but I think he's still a bit rough around the edges, I would call him.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have like 3 or 4 strikers, so that if I'm not saying the board have signed though, what I'm saying is, see if the board are bringing in projects like they need to have players in there that are ready-made as well, because there's no point us having 2 strikers of Kyogo, who's really good, and then a big drop-off to O. You know, we need to have like 3 or 4 strikers like we did with Ed Griffiths and the Belly, where we've got a very good striker, and then we've got Lee Griffiths sitting there for them. Do you know what I mean? We need to have players that are ready made for this, because see Brendan Rodgers. I said this on Friday. Brendan Rodgers is not coming in to beat Aberdeen 5-0 and to score 4 goals away to Dundee. Brendan Rodgers is coming in to do well in Europe. And see anyone that's scared to spend £10 million, well, I'm sorry. This is a landmark that Brendan Rodgers might be in, because at the end of the day, Brendan Rodgers is not coming back to sign some guys from the City group and go, I'm happy to be here.
Spot on, Vegan.
Do you know what I mean? Brendan Rodgers has come in with the identity of 3 years. I'll improve you in Europe, and every year we'll steadily get that price bracket of players up. Do you know? I think that's what the plan is. Steadily each year, I think they'll invest big this summer. Then next summer they'll steadily go for it, and then the following summer will be where Brendan will be judged to say get us really big in Europe. Because at the end of the day, Brendan's already done a treble. And see all these people that are obsessed with trebles, right? See if you offered me the league title next year and a big run in Europe, I'd take that all day long. And see in the back of your mind, so would Brendan Rodgers. So bear that in mind, because
what's a big run, Regan? What's a big run for a team like Celtic, for a club like Celtic nowadays? Just out of interest.
A big run would be quarterfinals, because at the end of the day, I think Brendan said it on Friday. Brendan said, I know we've got financial constraints compared to the rest of Europe, but we still want to be ambitious in Europe as well. And I think if you look, I'm not wanting to look over the other side of the fence, but Rangers got to a European final. So I think Brendan's sat back in his chair in Leicester and he's went, look what I could do at Celtic. I could go there. If we get a good draw in the Europa League, we could do well. I mean, you just need to look at clubs like Feyenoord this season. Feyenoord got to the semi-final and then played Roma. Do you know what I mean? You're sitting there going, a club like Feyenoord got to the semi-final. And then you're looking at the Conference League. I mean, you've got, who was the one in the final? Fiorentina. Now, Fiorentina, as much as they're a big club, they don't spend a lot of money in Italy. So I think, in terms of that, I think it's probably just whetting Brendan's up. His appetite for the job. And I think in terms of Celtic fans, we need to get used to that. Don't buy into the notion that Roger Hanna said the other night in terms of if Brendan doesn't win a treble, he's a bad guy. See, at the end of the day, the Celtic board will be saying to Brendan, if you get a league title, they'll guarantee us Champions League. That'll do us. Because at the end of the day, see the League Cup, a couple of years ago, it was a Co-op Cup that Celtic actually couldn't win. We got beat off Ross County, remember? We got beat off a few teams in it. And so at the end of the day, I think sometimes we're taking trebles for granted, and then it'll be a big outroar. Why did Brendan not win his treble? At the end of the day, Brendan's big objective is, and if people are wise enough, see at the end of this season, David, the Champions League then goes into an 8-team group stage thing where it expands as well. So we need to be aware of that as a club and say, right, well, how can Celtic best manifest itself as a club? And Brendan's probably seen that as well. He's probably seen the format changing, so it's more easier for teams to get in. He's probably said to himself, see if I can guarantee this club Champions League football every single year, then we can build, develop. And then, like I said, you're not going to be a Champions League club straight away, but see if you build and you actually plan to be one, then that's only good for Celtic. And I think the interesting thing that Michael Nicholson said, which I said on Friday as well, he said Celtic are now a world-class football club. So that was Michael Nicholson's word. Now he needs to back that up now in the transfer market.
Yep. Phil, Guy Martin here saying we should be looking at to try and do both, winning the trebles and going on a long European run. If we look after Europe and domestic will be taken care of as well, both should side by side. But I kind of agree with Martin. I mean, yes, we have become quite spoilt with trebles, and it's always become an expectation that if you don't win a treble as a Celtic manager now, then you're deemed as a failure, which is a ridiculous narrative, by the way, because trebles are very difficult to win regardless of what league you play in. Take Bayern Munich, for example. Now, I know they don't have a treble in Germany, but they win the league at a canter every year. I think they're 11 years in a row champions. They don't win the double every year.
Yeah.
Now, so to try and say that Celtic not winning a treble is a failure is a nonsense. But I think he's right in saying, if we are going to now, Regan said it himself, which Brendan's not coming here to scud Aberdeen 6-0 and Dun United 8-0 and 9-0. Well, the other guys are going to be playing most of the week, so hopefully he does want to do that anyway, Regan. But I think you're right. If he's wanting to sign players, Phil, if he's wanting to sign players that are going to really make a dent in Europe and take us on an exciting European run, then domestically it should take care of itself. Do you agree with that? I wouldn't want to trade losing trebles. I love winning trebles, by the way. Love winning them. It's great. But I wouldn't want to trade them off for coming quarterfinals in a European competition. I'd rather do both. Would you agree?
Yeah,
if we've got a squad capable of doing that, if we build a squad capable of going on a European run, such as a quarter-final in the Champions League, or even a final or semi-final in a Europa League, then domestically the team should be able to take care of that domestically. Yeah.
I've said that a few times about, if we've got a team that can compete at a good level in Europe, Champions League or Europa League, then worrying about your teams like St Mirren and Motherwell and all that, the teams you play every week, it should just take care of itself because our squad should be more than strong enough. It may be a case of, you're right, this whole thing about if we don't win a treble, he's not a failure. I know Roger Hanna said that on Super Scoreboard about if he won just say a league and cup double, that'd be a failure. Well, no, it wouldn't, because the league is the key to get us into the Champions League. So as long as he's got that first and foremost, that gets us into the Champions League. That allows us to keep improving. And with the two cups, I think it may be a case of if we want to improve in Europe or want to keep moving forward in Europe, it might be a case of in some of the cup games, you don't necessarily field your strongest team, but at the same time, we should still have a strong enough team to brush aside teams like St Johnstone and all that, because again, if we've improved to be good enough in Europe, then domestic. So all kind of would fall into place. Martin O'Neill did something similar in his very first season where he was playing like reserve teams against Hearts at Tynecastle in the League Cup and we're still beating them 5-2. Stuff like that. So it has happened in the past. So if we can get an all-round strong squad that, we can field a few weaker teams in the domestic cup games, but they're still good enough to win these games because our concentration is mostly get the league title and obviously try and progress in Europe. Now, what you said there about a run in Europe, I agree. See if we get to the quarterfinals of, say, the Champions League, but we got over that hurdle of the round of 16, which we've got to a few times, right? And not been by that round since. We've not even won a knockout stage game since 2004. But if we get the quarterfinals, right, realistically, we go through the quarters and say we get scudded off a Real Madrid or something. Realistically, what did we get for that? We got through to one round further than we've ever got. But at the end of the season, what do you really get for that? You would rather, if you got to the semi-finals of Europa League as well, we got all the way to semi-finals, but you got that close to the final. It would have been, and when you get that far, you want to go that bit further. So I don't know if I would be all that chuffed at the end of the season going, we lost a quarter-final. We've had a good fight against Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, but ultimately lost. So I don't know. It's really hard to gauge right now. But thinking about it in my head, when I'm like, would I really enjoy that? I think if we were in the lower European competitions, Europa League or the Conference League, then by all means, I think we've got a right to dream in that one. We saw the team across the city could get to the final of the Europa League. We saw the Conference League and the standard that's in there. You saw how much it meant to West Ham to win it the other week. West Ham were absolutely loving it. Their celebrations were better than Man City celebrations winning the Champions League. I watched West Ham's game and I was like, man, I wish that was us. I would love to win the Conference League. So to go when you're going deep into Europe, I feel like it's not much to really shout about that. We got to a quarter-final. We got to a semi-final here.
Stick it in the trophy cabinet, we tell Rangers.
Stick it in the trophy cabinet,
Stick it in the trophy cabinet next to that treble. Oh, wait. No, that's over in our trophy cabinet.
The post from FIFA, the guy with the invisible trophy. That one, yeah.
I love that. It cracks me up. Every time I see that, it cracks me up. Well, let's move on. some more transfer links, which we're not going to be happy to hear. Regan, Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur have now been linked with the Celtic defender Cameron Carter-Vickers. I was reading this online on a Spurs column this morning. Carter-Vickers was on the books at Tottenham from 2009 to 2022. The 25-year-old was deemed not good enough when he was part of the Spurs team. He was shipped out on loan to Sheffield United, Ipswich Town, Swansea City, Stoke City, Luton Town, now a Premier League team, and AFC Bournemouth, Premier League team. I don't know, were they in the Premier League when he played for them? I think they were. Were they not?
No, they're in Championship.
Had to be relegated at that time. Okay, and of course, he was on loan at Celtic before we made the move permanent. Now, I'd be devastated if Spurs came along and snapped up Carter-Vickers. I don't see it happening. I would only see that happening if Ange's other targets start turning them down. I think that would be a case of, well, I've used him before. I like him. I want him back. I think that would be the only way. Now, but I hadn't actually read his full loan trips until right this second, and the fact that Luton Town and Bournemouth are both clubs now playing in the Premier League, they're two other clubs that you might start going, here, we'll take him back. So I doubt he would go back there, but just seeing those names on that list there, now Premier League teams, I think Carter-Vickers, the vultures will start swarming for him again. Also looking at that list, Regan, is he might go, I don't want to go back there and find myself bouncing about different clubs in lower English divisions and bottom of the Premier League. I'm quite happy being at Celtic. I've broken into the national side. I'm a hero here. I'm getting Champions League football here. He's pretty much vice captain, isn't he? If McGregor's not playing, I'm confident he'll stay. But what's your thoughts, Regan? Especially you having your links to Spurs. What do you think the Spurs fans would feel about Ange going for a player that was deemed a failure first time round at Spurs?
No, I don't think they'll go back to Carter-Vickers. I think the one they're looking for is a centre back from Bayer Leverkusen. Transoba or something like that.
Tapsoba, yes.
Yeah, Tapsoba. Yeah, so I don't think they're going to go for Carter-Vickers. And like you said there, David, I don't think Carter-Vickers would be interested because at the end of the day, he's got Brendan there, saying if he's here, I'll be here. Well, all this stuff. If you don't believe that stuff, then come on now. Everybody believes it. But no, I think in terms of Carter-Vickers, right, like you said there, he's been to the US national team. He's winning trophies, so I don't see a reason why he should. And also, I'm just remembering as well, David, that he didn't actually play that much in the Champions League because he was injured with Phil.
Yeah, he was injured for most of the games because that was one of the things was we never got the chance, Starfelt and Carter-Vickers, to play together. That was one of the things we've talked about where Ange had missed out on that. And obviously that's something that Russell had said a few times going into this season. Ange will want to do that, but Ange ain't here now. So, and there's somebody that we've not spoken about, by the way. What does the future hold for Starfelt? We talk about players that are going to improve. Starfelt still takes a serious bashing from many Celtic fans about his quality, so I wonder how he'll be under. But anyway, on you go. You can sorry, I've got sidetracked you there, mate. But he didn't play that many games because he was injured. Jens played a lot.
I think for Carter-Vickers, David, I think the challenge is still there at Celtic. I don't think he's reached his glass ceiling yet. I think he'd be daft to go to Bournemouth and go to Spurs now. When he's getting Champions League football and you've got Brendan Rodgers coming in, he's got a very good manager, like I said on Friday. But that is one of the reasons why I believe that Celtic have done their to get Brendan back, because as much as people say you get Brendan back in a bag of beer, at the end of the day, Brendan's a top quality manager who is going to attract their players to stay, because Michael Nicholson even made the point on Friday. He said we had someone that was able to push on the players, and I think he's meaning that with Brendan. I think as much as we don't like to praise this board, I think also you need to say to yourself that sometimes we need to credit them and say, well, maybe they've learned from the mistake on that, David. And I don't think he'll be a Tottenham player. I think he'll be a Celtic. One thing that's giving me sleepless nights, I want your opinion on this, David and Phil. Mikey Johnson's been in the paper. I said this to Paul and Friday, saying he wants a big chance under Brendan Rodgers. Would you be interested on the redemption of Mr. Johnson? Because it's giving me sleepless nights. He's saying that he knows Brendan from before. He's getting international recognition, and he fancies his chances.
For me, nah. I think he's had plenty of chances, and even his spell on loan hasn't really excited me. And thought, oh wow, he's done amazing in Portugal. Then we should give him another chance. I think we've got better wingers already here. If I'm honest, I think it'd be better for him to move on, whether it's to stay in Scotland or to go down into League One Championship level. I know he scored for Ireland the other night. I'm pretty sure it was not a tap in from a.
Yes, it was.
The keeper spilled the ball out from a shot further out, and he just kind of tapped it in. It's not like he's skinning players and putting it top bins every game. He's not prolific at all in Portugal. Granted, difficult league. You know, if you're struggling to get a game for Celtic in Scotland, you're going to probably find it difficult to score goals in the Portuguese league. I don't know about you, Phil, but I'm sure he would do well. He would do well with somewhere like Hibs or something like that. But I just don't think he's at the level that we need. You know, we're going on about like saying that Dies and Maeda that aren't going to do well in Europe next year. I don't see how Mickey Johnson is going to.
I'm inclined to agree there. It's a good thing that Mark had to leave before we talked about Mikey Johnson, because you know his feelings on it. Mark's actually got to get to the airport. That's why he's disappeared. He's flying at 1 o'clock going to Gran Canaria. So yeah, he had to pop off there because he was heading off ski. But yeah,
I do apologise. I didn't see that. You'd put it in the private chat. He was needing to head off, and I didn't see it. So I do apologise. We'll have a good holiday, Mark.
Indeed. But you're right with the Mike Johnson thing. I saw through the week on Twitter, people were going, "Oh, Johnson scored for Ireland," and then I've seen the goal. And I think somebody said here, San Fran Celtic said it, deflected free tap in. It wasn't exactly, beating loads of players and then putting it at the top corner. But I think somebody said earlier, I mean, Patrick McLaughlin said this in the chat when Johnson's name had came up with some of the guys talking. He'll probably play like in a couple of pre-season friendlies and probably get injured and be out for a month again, which seems to have fortunately been Mikey Johnson's career, where he always feels like he's on the cusp of something special, and then injury comes along and hampers him. There was a Neil Lennon season when Lennon had came back in the first month or two. Johnson was in the team and getting games and playing well by all accounts, a good run of games, and then he got injured again. And I remember he missed an absolute clanger in the cup final against Rangers where the one got his winner. I feel like, I've always said that. I feel like that's a fine moment in his career where, if that had gone in, man, I think we'd look at Mikey Johnson in such a different light. I think he would have pushed on for there. He's got that on his CV, a goal which was effectively a winner against Rangers in a cup final, but fine margins. He just sliced it past the post. And it's like, this ever since then. He got the loan last summer, I think, to try and get him in the shop window. Is essentially what I feel the club were doing there. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays 1 or 2 pre-season friendlies, just to see if Brendan will have a look at him at least. But I don't see him being at that level that we need right now.
No, I agree with you. Now, to be fair, I didn't see the game, but I think strangely the doctor did say that MG actually changed the game for Ireland when he came on. That's fair enough. I didn't actually see the game. I only seen the goals on the highlight show. So if you're saying that, then maybe there is a chance. I'm just going off of nostalgia of what we've seen him in the past. I feel like he's the guy. He's had more chances than anybody to make an impact at Celtic, and I just think there's maybe better players already at the club, but we'll see. Brendan might want to have a look at him. Now we've hit the hour mark, and there was one topic that was mentioned in the build-up on Twitter, so we will get talking about it. It is a shame that Mark had to leave because I was quite looking forward to seeing the fireworks come in, but we can talk. Regan, you'll be right to discuss this with. The BBC were not allowed in to Brendan Rodgers' press conference the other day. The BBC put out a statement saying, "We're sorry that Celtic did not allow us to access today's media event. We are in discussions with the club in an effort to resolve the situation. BBC Scotland has asked Celtic for comment on the decision to deny the BBC access to the media conference and is now awaiting a response." Now, there's no real solid reason that's surfaced yet as to why this particular scenario has occurred, and why Celtic have decided no, we're not allowing you in to have your moment with Brendan Rodgers. But I think we could all hazard a guess as to why. Regan, of course, Tom English has had quite the agenda going on since Brendan was announced that he was coming back. He was suggesting that he was a failure the last time out, and most likely Celtic just didn't want to give him any airtime whatsoever to try and drive that narrative.
I think also the fact that that's a very good day for Celtic supporters, so sometimes you just don't want to spoil the fact as well, because you don't want negative press all the time where people are saying negative things about the club, and I think it's actually a good move by the club. As much as it would have been good to get some reporters in, I think sometimes if you know that said people have got agendas against the club, it's only the right thing for them to do. So I can see it from both point of view. Find that they're missing out their the microphone at the press conference, but I can see it from both sides.
Phil, anything you like to say on Celtic's stance not letting BBC in to speak to Brendan?
I believe they also barred that PLZ soccer as well.
That's right, they did.
Yeah, but the BBC thing, obviously, I'd heard about it as the press conference was going on. Somebody said on Twitter the BBC had been banned, and I was watching the BBC Scotland News at 6:30 that night, and it was Chris McLaughlin. I always get him and Kennedy Nidsan mixed up, but basically he said that we weren't allowed in. We've asked the club for comment. They were playing the sort of ignorant card, like we don't know why. We've asked for a reason. Celtic, we're trying to work it out with them. But yeah, most people on Twitter were pointing to in the couple of days in the run up to the Brendan announcement, I think, or maybe after he'd been announced, it was the run up to the press conference. Tom English had wrote some article, and there was also some suggestion in one of the things that he'd said about Brendan's raging that Ange got the Tottenham job and he didn't, and stuff like that. And you've got to remember the Kenny McIntyre factor as well. Since Kenny McIntyre's taken over as the sort of main man on the Radio Scotland stuff, some of the snide comments and that, I mean, the one that always stands out is 2 seasons ago now, we beat St Mirren in a midweek game, and I remember Kenny McIntyre interviewing Ange after the game, and he went, "Well, that was a hard watch there, Ange, that game." And he went, "Depends what team you support, mate, or depends what team you wanted to win, mate." But he totally clamped him. And it was like, he just didn't really hide his weaknesses at all. So there's been a couple of wee snidey moments along the way. You look at the panel that mostly make up Radio Scotland. I believe this season they added Bobby Madden as the referee, pundit, expert, whatever you want to call it as well. So they don't exactly hide their weaknesses. Neil McCann and all that. So yeah, it's I guess Celtic just don't want to have these type of guys in that press conference trying to offset Rodgers, because the guys that did turn up to the press conference, there was what we exactly expected. They were pushing him for that answer, trying to get him to somehow apologise in some way. And then some of the headlines that have came out in the wake of the press conference on Friday night as well, where it's just totally misquoted. One of the papers, I think it was the Sunday Mail, had sorry, or maybe yesterday's Daily Record, sorry, not sorry. It's like he was not going to apologise. What is this whole thing where they think he's going to grovel and apologise? I think the way Brendan handled it was fantastic. I think what he said was brilliant. I loved when he was out in the steps at Celtic Park afterwards and addressed the fans that had gathered and said, for all those that are with me, let's go, let's do this together. And for all those that doubt me that I have to win over, I'll see you next May. I thought that was a fantastic line. Thought he dealt with it well, but yeah, I guess Celtic were just they were worried about people like Tom English or something might come in with snidey questions, so I guess they were just making sure that they were close to it. But it seems to be that seems to be the consensus, but nothing official has come out yet. But that seems to be the speculation as to why the BBC were clamped essentially from coming in.
I like this comment here from Jamie Burns that I'm just going to bring up. So he says, I hate the BBC, but don't think that we should be banning outlets because they ask a certain line of questioning. And Tom English has said a few things, however, I think he was spot on saying that Brendan Rodgers would be raging about Spurs. I mean, that's pure speculation from Tom English that you agree with Jamie. But no, Jamie does bring a fair point. You know, we've been quite vocal about even fan media being like, you know, are they going to ask the tough questions from Celtic? And, you know, it kind of works both ways. You do almost want to see how a man... Now, I don't want, obviously, people to be driving a narrative to fit an agenda, but sometimes, you know, to censor certain questioning means that you're trying to drive your own narrative. So sometimes it's like, if you're going to do an open presser, let the hard questions be asked and let Brendan. And Brendan's a clever guy, he's a witty guy. I'm sure he'd manage to answer the question perfectly, you know.
Yeah.
So I agree with Jamie in a sense that, you know, if quickly the narrative can be spun that Celtic are only willing to let people in that like them and are only willing to let ask the easy questions, you know, and that's a narrative that can be spun. So sometimes you've just got, I mean, Brendan was going to be in for a hard time regardless, you know. I mean, I was reading online that even like when the fan pressures are, Celtic will say to the fan media groups that are invited along that you aren't allowed to ask that question. Pick another one. And it's almost, you know, and you can almost understand why they're doing that for fan media. But when you start doing that to the mainstream media, then the narrative can be quickly spun against you. So it kind of works. It's a double-edged sword, really, isn't it? You let a guy in who's going to drive his own narrative, and you have to take the risk that Brendan can handle it. I like how I keep calling him just Brendan, as if me and Brendan are pals, you know, Mr. Rodgers.
Did you and Brendan go for a pub lunch in Mallorca as well, aye?
Aye, mate, can you not tell by my amazing tan? But do you know what I mean? Like it's like being a double-edged sword, because I totally get what you're saying, Jamie. It's a valid point. We're going to wrap this up though, because it's just going almost 12:10. Mark is probably at the security and now at the airport getting checked.
Maybe Marco Tilio's coming in the other direction. You can say hi to him at the airport.
That's what's happening. Mark's not going anywhere on holidays. He made it just see if he can catch a glimpse of our new signing arriving.
I wonder if that Des Buckingham's still there. Remember he was there about 2 weeks ago?
Oh God, that's right. Yes. That's right.
Anyway, guys, we'll wrap this up. Thanks everybody for watching again. Always appreciate you coming onto the Sunday Blether. It's been an amazing month for the bus. I'm sure Boise will dive into that on Monday's show. But it's been a great month for the bus in terms of numbers, the subscribers going up, the views. We appreciate everybody coming on. Love having the debates. Love the fact that Brown Warrior and such have different views to others in the chat and on the show. And as you can see, sometimes I'll have a different view to Regan. Regan will have a different view to Mark and Phil, and it's and all the other guys. And that's what creates great debate and good content, especially when the season's over. We love having these kind of discussions with you guys. And obviously, remember to keep the comments coming in on the shows once they've been uploaded as well. Brown, I will do my best to try and read your comments, but nothing personal, mate. I can't even read the back of a synopsis of a book before falling asleep because I haven't got the attention span for it. If you bring it out an audio version, I'll be more than happy to read.
Especially your watery eyes at the moment, you can't really read much.
I don't know how you're going to even listen to my nasally horrendous hay fever voice going on right now. Yeah, it's bad enough and I'm feeling all right. I don't know how you are putting up with me, but anyway, thank you, Phil. Thank you, Regan. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on. Well, you'll see Boise and the team on Monday afternoon, I imagine. See you then.
See ya.